when she is naked at Jordan's house, getting ready to take a shower, that Jordan would be sitting at the edge of his bed and he would wave her over to him to come. And he would hug her where she would be in between his legs. And again, she would feel his triangle up against her circle.
So based on what she was telling you, she's in the bathroom and he's on his bed.
No, so from my understanding of what she said, his room was connected, I guess, to his bathroom. So she would get naked in his room. And as she's going to his bathroom, he would stop her and wave her over and perform these hugs, both with her facing him, and sometimes it was her facing out where she had her back towards him. And when she had her back facing towards him, she felt his triangle penis against her high knee, which I'm not sure if it was square or rectangle, the shape that she used. But she said when he did that his hands would be doing that fingering, the poking, pressing on her circle.
So the square and rectangle, did she tell you what that is?
She said that it was her high knee.
Sorry, just to clarify for the record, what does that mean?
Her anus.
Did she tell you anything else?
She said that when he was done, that he would be wet, and in turn he would get her wet, and he would tell her to go clean up.
Did she give you any more details, or did she just say he was wet? Did she say where?
She said where his triangle was.
Did she say how long he was hugging her for?
A couple minutes.
So what did you do with this information?
Reported it.
To who?
I believe it was both with CPS and the police, I believe.
Okay. So that day you took her to Center for Miracles?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was this the only time that she gave you new information, or did she give you new information a different day?
She did give me new information another day.
Okay.
After that.
And what do you know the month?
I believe it was in September.
What was that?
I believe it was in September.
September of that same year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, without getting into what she told you, what did you do when you discovered this new information?
I went to Universal City Police Station and reported it.
This was a different agency?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And after you reported it, has there been any other instances?
Not that I can recall.
Okay, Judge, at this time, pass the witness.
All right, defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Reed.
Good afternoon.
My name is John Floyd. I'm going to need to ask you some questions, okay?
That's it.
If you don't understand anything I'm asking, please just stop me and I'll repeat it, okay?
Yes, sir.
I get where Mr. Saldana started. So you originally met, and I just want to bypass all the high school stuff and go into when you first met Mr. Jordan Robbins. Do you remember what year that was?
I don't recall.
Do you remember when you guys start seeing each other?
I believe, I think I stated 2011 or 10, but I'm really not sure. It was so long ago.
Okay. And it's fair to say that a lot has happened since that time, right?
Yes, sir.
I noticed that you have a hard time remembering some things. You were in a bad accident, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
In fact, you suffered traumatic brain injury, right?
Yes, sir.
And that was because you drove on the highway in the wrong direction, right?
Yes, sir.
You were intoxicated.
And I'm gonna object to relevance.
What's the relevance?
Your Honor, the witness has already started testifying about Mr. Robbins and his alcohol use. I think that it's fair that we go into, I'm not going to go much further, but I understand some of her background about alcohol use too, so there's not a false impression left with the jury.
All right, the question has been asked. You can answer that question and then defense will move on.
I was not intoxicated. I had a toxicologist prove that my whole body was in shock due to the severity of the accident. So because I had a drink of the night before, my levels were right at the limit.
I need to approach you and just ask you if this helps you refresh your recollection of whether you're intoxicated.
My body was in shock. It wasn't just that level that was increased. It was my whole, everything in my body was increased, all of my levels.
And so, do you know what the legal limit was back then?
No,
You
sir.
remember? You remember talking to your lawyer, right?
No, sir. I don't recall that.
Okay. Wait, your testimony was that you were up the legal limit, but you know that your results were over 0.09.
Your Honor, I'm
correct?
gonna object to relevance and this is stating from an item that is not
Sustained.
Thank you.
Can we ask the jury to disregard the statement?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're to disregard the last statement.
And so, as a result of that accident, you spent several days in a coma, right?
3 days.
And a month or so in ICU.
I believe so. I'm not sure.
Okay. And so that may have impacted some of your ability to remember some of the details. I guess with your relationship prior to the accident.
Possibly.
Okay. Has it impacted your ability to remember things afterwards?
Not important things.
Okay. So only unimportant things.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say I have a problem remembering.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. It's fair to say that after that accident, you became pregnant, right?
Yes,
And you married Mr. Robbins, right? About how long were you married?
a little over 2 years.
Okay. Um, and so Arabella, and when I guess she came along about a year after your marriage, or I'm sorry, she was conceived before your marriage, right?
Yes, sir.
So how old was she? I guess when was she born after after you got married?
She was born in June. I don't remember when Jordan and I got married.
Okay. But it's fair to say it was a couple months after you got married.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Um, Jordan was a good father.
Yes.
Um, and after a couple of years or 2 years or so, you guys got divorced. You filed for the divorce?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember why you filed?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And what was that about?
Jordan had gone to a strip club and came home intoxicated and called another woman to be his designated driver. There was hours, and there was hours missing of what he was doing with this woman.
And so it's fair to say that you're upset with them.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as part of the divorce, um, you at the end of that, you guys ended up with, you'd mentioned sole custody, but actually you ended up with the standard custody arrangement, correct?
Yes, sir.
You were where she lived, right?
She was with me.
Yeah,
Yes.
she was with you. You guys had a standard custody arrangement where he could come every other weekend, sometimes during the week, right?
Yes, sir. There was only one, I think, modification on that he was not allowed to drink any alcohol when operating a motor vehicle while he had Arabella.
And the same applied to you, right? That was a joint condition, right? That both of you were ordered not to drink and drive while you're in the presence of the child, right?
I I don't drink and drive. Yes, I apologize. I just know that my attorney had added that because I just know my attorney added that modification.
And that was because you were concerned about Mr. Robbins, not about someone being concerned about you.
Correct.
So, from the time of the divorce and the initial, do you remember about when that divorce was final?
2016, maybe.
And after that, you guys were able to kind of work out your visitation and everything appeared to be okay.
Yes, we
Right.
co-parented well.
You co-parented well. Kind of moving forward to, we talked about, I guess, your marriage to your current husband. just so we get this clear, in 2017, you married someone else, right?
Yes,
And who was that?
Brody
Brody, what's Brody's last name?
Walton.
Okay. And how long did that relationship last?
Not very long.
Um, you, you divorced him as well?
I'm gonna object to relevance at this point, Judge.
What is the relevancy?
Your Honor, the state opened the door to all this by going into her marriages and her divorces.
All right, that'll
I
be
just wanna clear it up.
sustained.
Um, and well, so Brody was around Arabella, correct?
Yes, sir.
And there was another man you lived with it before you got married to Brody, right?
No, sir.
Who's Adrian? Adrian Anderson.
I dated Adrian after Brody, not before.
Okay. So after Brody, Adrian, did you guys live together?
Yes, for a
Okay.
short period.
And he was also around Arabella, right?
Yes,
And so then you married Jason Reed. That's your current husband, right?
yes, sir.
Okay. And how many children have you had together?
2.
Two. Okay. And when were your children born with Jason?
March of 2019 and November of 2020.
In November 2020?
Yes, sir.
So it's in about 2020 that things seem to change between you and Mr. Robbins. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Were you guys having, I guess, more difficulty with the custody arrangement at that point?
Yes, maybe more concerns.
And the concerns were coming from you, correct?
Yes, for the well-being of Arabella.
Okay. And so we talked a little bit about that earlier. In 2020, what were your concerns about Arabella's safety?
Just her well-being, her health, her mental and physical state.
Okay. And what was that based upon?
She had shared an incident that had happened when she was with Jordan, and that Jordan's father took her and her cousins to a convenience store with no car seats, no shoes, and inside the convenience store.
And that was enough to have you file a motion to modify the parenting arrangement?
That, as well as her coming home tired, bags under her eyes, thirsty.
Okay, so in 2020, how old was Arabella?
Her 5.
Okay, so 5 or 6. And you're concerned that maybe she's running around barefooted. Did you ever see her in the car without a seatbelt on?
I never saw her.
Did any other adult ever see her without a seatbelt on?
Not not to my knowledge, no other adult addressed that with me.
Okay. So you ended up filing a motion to modify the parent-child relationship. Remember that, right? You hired a lawyer to do that.
Yes, sir.
And that would have been in April 2020 or so.
I believe so. I believe so.
Okay.
Maybe possibly.
And because of your concerns, one of your demands at that point is you wanted full custody, right?
I can't remember.
Do you remember demanding that as part of the petition that you filed, that Mr. Robbins take care of Bella's temperature every 4 hours during his visitation?
I don't remember that.
Do you remember requesting that he submit to a breathalyzer to be installed in his car during that time?
I remember, I believe it was called SoberLink. Something about
That was one of your demands that you wanted back in February 2020. I'm sorry, April 2020, when you filed the modification. Maybe this will help you. I know you're struggling with it a lot. If this will help you. There's the date it was filed. You recognize that?
right here.
Mhm.
Oh.
And then- There were the. What you're asking. for.
Excuse me. I'm going to ask you all, if you all are having a conversation, don't whisper because the court reporter still is taking down everything
Yes, Your Honor.
and she cannot hear.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just asking you if this helps you recall what was said in that petition.
I would have to read it, and I mean, I can read it if you'd like me to, but this does look.
Counsel, you want to mark that as an exhibit
No, Your Honor, just give her a chance to read and see if it refreshes her recollection.
so that the court reporter in the record, it'll say what it is.
But we don't need that just yet. If she acknowledges it, I don't think it needs to be.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. So it's true, part of your demands were that he submit to the sober link, right?
Yes, sir.
And that he test his child every 4 hours for COVID, right?
I don't remember that part. I didn't see that part.
Moving on. During that time period in April, you started reporting Mr. Robbins and the neglect to your physician, Dr. Stafford. Do you remember that?
I remember I would always address any concerns I had with Arabella's health to her pediatrician, Dr. Stafford.
Um, do you remember a CPS investigation being initiated because of something you told Dr. Stafford as a result of what you were alleging, the neglect?
I didn't tell Dr. Stafford.
You didn't report the fact that your child was being neglected and you had concerns to Dr. Stafford?
I shared my concerns with Dr. Stafford, but the CPS that you're referring to, that statement that caused that was from Arabella to Dr. Stafford. She had never shared what she shared to Dr. Stafford that day with me.
Okay. You did call Dr. Stafford, right, and report this neglect,
I would share my concerns.
and that was prior to the meeting with Dr. Stafford, with Arabella's meeting with Dr. Stafford.
I don't believe I've ever, or I don't believe I spoke with her on the phone. I would call, and usually it was talking to Dr. Stafford's nurse. For, okay, I'm concerned with this, and she would let Dr. Stafford know, and then they would get back in touch with me on how to handle.
Do you remember you reported that Arabella was having stomach pains, that she wasn't eating, that she was being neglected?
Anytime Arabella had any medical issues going on, I would call her pediatrician to see what I needed to do, what the next steps were, that guidance.
I guess my question is during this time period in 2020, September of 2020, you did in fact report this neglect to Dr. Stafford, right? You called the office and reported this alleged neglect, correct?
I would call with concern. I don't remember exactly calling and that phone call conversation. I apologize.
That's okay. I'm just going to show you this and see if this helps you remember this reflects your recollection. Okay. So now do you remember that you called Dr. Stafford in September of 2020 and reported that Mr. Robbins was being neglectful?
I didn't use the word neglectful, but yes, I do remember making that statement that I just read.
Okay. It's kind of similar to what we've heard before in some of your previous testimony, that after a long weekend, she may have come home with stomach pains.
Stomach pains. It looked like she hadn't showered, hadn't brushed her teeth all weekend. She was hungry. Said that he would only feed her 1 meal a day and snacks.
Okay. Now we know that was reported to CPS, correct?
If Dr. Stafford reported that.
Okay, let me ask you this way. Do you know that a CPS investigation was initiated because of your report to Dr. Stafford?
I know that a CPS report was made, but I believe it was because of the statement she made when she saw Dr. Stafford.
Oh, okay, fair enough. And you participated in the CPS investigation. They came to your house, right?
Yes, sir.
And they, as far as you know, Mr. Robbins cooperated. They went to his house, right?
I believe so.
And as a result of that, there was no action taken by CPS on that, right? You guys resolved it.
Correct.
Okay. And so that would have been in September of 2020. So tell me, in between September of 2020 and I guess the time period that these allegations came out, you had several contacts with Dr. Stafford's office about your concerns about Arabella, right?
if it's on record, yes, if it's,
Let me ask you, but maybe this will help you. Did you call Dr. Stafford's office on multiple occasions expressing your concerns about Arabella's well-being?
I would call Dr. Stafford's office anytime I was concerned with her, so if she would come home and yes, she looked physically or mentally not taken care of, yes, I would call Dr. Stafford and ask for guidance.
Okay. Do you recall during that period that Dr. Stafford requested you take Arabella to counselor,
Yes, I do remember that.
K&M counseling?
Yes,
Okay. And you followed that recommendation, you took Arabella to counseling?
yes.
Um, um, and do you remember about how long she went to counseling there?
I don't recall how long she went there. I know her counselor was, I believe, still getting her license. She had to have supervised sessions with Arabella.
She was getting counseling through a counseling service, and there would have been 2 counselors in the room?
No, I believe it was just the one counselor, but she had to share those session notes with the licensed counselor that was with that agency.
Okay, do you remember during the initial intake or during your discussions with that particular counseling group that you reported you had concerns of sexual abuse as far back as September of 2020?
I don't remember that.
I'm going to show you some records to see if these help you refresh your recollection. Particularly on 1, 2.
Okay,
Does that help you remember what you said to the therapist when you started the counseling? K&M?
I said it was a possibility, but that I did not know.
And you had no basis for that at that time, correct?
Just with the symptoms she was showing.
Thirsty, being barefooted, those were all things that made you believe she was being sexually abused.
The barefooting was one incident that Arabella shared with me about going with Jordan's father somewhere. It wasn't an everyday occurrence, or not that, I don't know on that, but the different physical that she was going through, the tiredness, the bags under her eyes, smelling because she hadn't showered, brushing teeth. There was a lot of other.
She's 6 years old at that time, correct?
I believe 6 or 5.
5 or 6, okay. And based on your opinion, you thought because of these factors, you thought she might be sexually abused, and that's what you told the counselor.
I said it was a possibility. I didn't suggest or make the statement that that was occurring.
And you said it was a possibility that Mr. Jordan was sexually abusing his child.
If I said I didn't say that if she asked if I suspected it. I said it could be maybe a possibility, but I know I would never have just. She possibly could be getting sexually assaulted by her dad.
Okay, so the concern you had as far back as 2020, enough that you would raise it to the therapist as a possibility.
I don't believe I raised it to her.
Okay. And you also, as part of that intake, you suggested that Mr. Robbins was emotionally abusive towards Arabella.
She said that?
That's what, that was what I showed you earlier. Do you remember saying that to the therapist during the intake?
I don't remember that.
See if we'll put the next line down. See if that helps you remember.
Is that emotional abuse?
Oh, thank you. So you were suspecting physical abuse, right?
I didn't, I just knew he wasn't taking care of her.
Okay.
It was anything with the possibility.
And you were suspecting possible sexual abuse, right?
If she asked, again, it could have been a possibility. Arabella never shared that with me at that time.
Okay. And I hate to keep beating this up, but the reality is that you suspected that it was possible that Mr. Robbins was sexually abusing his child based on these symptoms that you were seeing, reporting.
I guess it was possible.
Okay, all right. And the same thing about the emotional abuse. You were suspecting that he was committing emotional abuse against his child.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that counseling went on. You took her how often? Weekly?
I believe so.
And do you remember why when you left that particular therapist?
I believe she shared that we could come back whenever we felt Arabella needed counseling, I believe.
And so that counseling went on for how long do you think? 3 or 4 months?
I don't recall.
Okay. It's fair to say that there were no, as far as you know, there were absolutely no allegations from Arabella during those counseling sessions that she had been sexually abused by Mr. Robbins.
No one shared that with me.
Okay. If you'd known that, you would have done something about it, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about the, I guess the concerns you had about COVID during this time. Okay, were you concerned about your child getting COVID?
Mm. You know, COVID was such an unknown thing. I think I was concerned if any of us got COVID. I think y'all were concerned with COVID.
Of course, of course. She was vaccinated, right?
Yes.
Do you remember in later on in 2020, reporting to Dr. Stafford that she had this odor you talked about earlier?
Yes, sir.
And that was body odor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that was one of the grounds that you alleged was a result of Mr. Robbins' abuse or neglect?
I don't remember when I contacted Dr. Stafford if I tied those two together. I remember sharing that and that it was always this strong odor when she would come back from being with him.
Okay. And did you ask for a referral to see if she had precocious puberty at the time?
I never asked for that. Dr. Stafford referred me.
So we know that the CPS and the allegations was initially closed, right?
Yes, sir.
And the counseling services were terminated, right?
Yes, sir.
And I guess after that, your petition to modify custody was terminated.
At my house and we discussed and he agreed to be in better communication with myself and my husband so we could co-parent Arabella together.
Okay. But there was no change about any of these other things that you were concerned about as far as her smelly or having bare feet. That was nothing that was ever agreed upon.
Bare feet was again just the one time and he promised to have her in her car seat and be dressed appropriately when with other people or with himself. But the other things, I mean, there was still times where she would come again tired. I could tell she hadn't bathed or things like that after.
I'm sorry, she had what? 8?
Bathe.
Oh, 8. I'm sorry. So during this time, there were times where she would be with Mr. Jordan and his extended family, right?
Yes.
And there'd be other kids around, right?
Yes.
And they all played together like kids do.
Yes.
Okay. In fact, she spent a lot of time with her cousins back there playing, and it'd be natural for her to come home tired and sweaty, right?
Yes.
Okay. And they would feed all the children, right?
Yes.
So you have all these concerns, right? All these suspicions that we talked about earlier about Mr. Robbins and the way he was treating Arabella. From, I guess, the time that CPS case was closed and the modification order was settled. Mr. Jordan started, I mean, he never stopped having his visitations with Arabella, right? He was still seeing her regularly.
Yes.
And you guys worked that out and you were okay with that?
Yes.
Even though you suspected that he might be committing sexual abuse and neglect upon the child.
If I knew he was having sex with my daughter, I wouldn't have. Would have reported it, just like.
Well, in fact, you did, right? You did report it. You reported it to the doctor and you went through CPS and you tried to have custody modified, right?
I never told the doctor that I thought that Jordan was having sex with Arabella. I never made that statement.
Okay. But it's fair to say you suspected it, as you testified to earlier.
It was a possibility with my concerns with her health and mental state.
Okay, I'm going to move forward now to January of 2022. Okay. there was an incident, I guess, where where Jordan had, been, there was a time when, Arabella had a panic attack about COVID. Do you remember that? You had to go to the pediatrician,
In January?
January 2022.
I remember she had COVID and she was with Jordan. I don't remember her having a panic attack.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. So that would have been, do you remember about what month that was in 2022?
When she had COVID?
Yeah, when she had COVID, 'cause that is something you remember, right? It's an event for you at the time.
She had tested positive for COVID when she was with Jordan, and he, I believe, also tested positive, so she was supposed to quarantine with him and had to stay for 10 days, I believe.
Okay. During that time, she stayed, do you remember, she was around the other family at the lake house during that time, right?
I believe they were having a quarantine party.
And that bothered you, right? That he had exposed her outside your quarantine zone, right?
Can you rephrase the question?
I know that you, at that time, everyone's being really careful about COVID. I know that you're being careful about COVID, right?
Yes,
And you're concerned about Arabella getting COVID, right?
I was concerned about anyone getting COVID, but yes.
So my question is if you're concerned about Arabella getting COVID, right?
Yes,
And you were upset when you found out that she had tested positive when she was hanging around with Mr. Robbins and his family, right?
I don't believe, I mean, I was concerned. Arabella is, she,
And she's, and I'm sorry to cut you off, I mean, you're having a hard time with it, but did, and so Arabella stayed with him for 10 days, 2 weeks during that time?
yes, per Dr. Stafford's recommendations.
Okay. And that would have been January of 2022, thereabouts.
Yes, I believe so.
And again, you made a phone call to Dr. Stafford, told him that she had tested positive, right?
I don't believe I made that phone call.
You know she had been tested by Dr. Stafford, right? For COVID.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm sorry. Do you remember if that was Mr. Robbins that took her I apologize. It was Mr. Robbins that took Arabella to see Dr. Stafford about the COVID test.
I believe so, yes.
That would have been late January 22. Does that sound about right?
I just remember it was January of 2022.
And right around the corner, you talked about this a little bit earlier. You said that I guess there had been a weekend where Arabella had went to out of town with Mr. Robbins and I'm sorry, they'd gone to a hotel, is what it said.
Yes.
Do you remember the details of that, where they went?
I don't remember where they went. I just remember she shared that they had gone and stayed at a hotel.
Okay. And that would have been, I think what you testified earlier too, it would have been Jordan and Arabella, right? And then Josefina. And who's Josefina?
I believe Jordan's girlfriend.
You know Josefina well, right?
I met her through Jordan.
Okay.
Jordan
But you guys talk a lot, you communicate a lot. She was around a lot when you guys were exchanging the child, right?
She wasn't always present.
Did you have any problems with Josefina?
No, I did not.
And then the other person would have been her son, LJ. They're the ones that went to the hotel, right?
That's what Arabella shared.
Okay. And that bothered you, right?
That did not bother me. What bothered me is she shared that LJ and her slept in the same bed at the hotel.
Okay. LJ is Josefina's child.
Yes, sir.
And about how old was he at the time?
I believe he was 12 at the time.
Okay. And they all stayed in the same room, right? As far as you know.
As far as I know.
But it upset you that LJ was sleeping in the same bed with Arabella.
Yes, it did.
Okay, okay. And you remember just after that, you started interviewing with lawyers to change custody again.
No.
Okay. So in your such your testimony, you did not go out and start interviewing lawyers and engage a lawyer to modify custody at that time, right after you heard about them spending this weekend at the hotel.
I searched for a lawyer when I found out about the abuse that was occurring. When she outcried to me.
Do you remember calling the pediatrician around that time?
Yes, because she was sick.
And yeah, so your call was that she was sick at that point, right? And you renewed your concerns about neglect to Dr. Stafford.
I believe so.
Okay. And it's important. I mean, this is right when this outcry is about to happen, okay? So I want to be clear. There, at that point, your main concern was the fact that Jordan had taken Arabella to a hotel and stayed in the hotel room with Josefina and her son, right? That was your initial concern, right?
I don't recall. I'm sorry.
And initially, there were no any kind of allegations of sexual abuse when you started consulting the attorneys, right?
I believe I only consulted the attorneys when I found out about the abuse.
Okay.
When she outcried to me.
And so if you don't remember on February 7th hiring a lawyer for a family lawyer on February 7th prior to filing the CPS report and moving forward with these allegations.
If that's the date on file, then that was, I apologize.
That's okay.
It's been a long time.
It's fair to say you were immediately engaging a lawyer at that time to try to modify the conditions and to take Arabella away from Mr. Jordan.
I wanted to protect her when they found out about the outcry.
So at some point you get the initial outcry and you file a CPS report yourself at that time, right?
Yes, sir.
And you also call law enforcement.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember, did you call them when they came to the house or did you go to the police station?
The first call, an officer came to our house.
Do you remember who that was?
I believe his name was McAllister. I
Okay.
just remember him being very tall.
Okay. And during that initial contact that you had with Officer McAllister, you describe basically the washing in the shower, right?
I don't believe she had shared that with me at that point.
The tight hugging, and what about any of the other allegations? Had she disclosed the rough washing to you yet?
I don't believe she shared what occurred in the shower at
Okay.
that time.
And the same thing, there was no initial outcry of the other things about the circle and the square and the triangle. The initial outcry was limited only to just the tight hugging.
I believe so that first day, it was, I don't believe she used the terminology of circle, square.
And where did she learn that from?
I never taught her that. That was something that she just said when she outcried. She just said, let's call it a circle. Let's call it a triangle. We've never referred to.
She's about, there's been a lot of time passed since we started, so she's about 8 years old at this point.
She was 7 when she outcried.
She was 7, I'm sorry. Yeah. So she was around 7, so and she's choosing this vocabulary on her own to describe this event.
That's the vocabulary she used with me. But not that, she used that when she outcried the other. I just want to make sure you weren't asking about the first time with Officer McAllister.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just asking, I guess, what she told you initially. It was just the tight hugging, right? It was none of this other stuff.
Yes, I believe she did not use the triangle circle until day after.
And it was the next day that you then called CPS again and gave them this additional information you testified to about earlier.
I believe I called CPS before I called the police. When I met with Officer McAllister, I had already made the CPS report where I was able to give him that information.
Right. And the next day you testified there was more allegations that came out when you were talking to her, right?
Yes,
And you called the detective to give him an update about what you had heard, right?
yes,
And you also called CPS to give them an update about what you had heard.
yes, per their instruction. If there was any new information or anything, they said to contact them. He gave me his card, and CPS said again to just call.
Okay. Shortly thereafter, you filed a restraining order against Mr. Robbins, right?
Yes,
And as part of that, you alleged sexual abuse, correct?
yes,
And as part of that, you would have sworn to a couple of statements. You made a couple of affidavits, correct, about what you believed was going on and what Arabella had allegedly told you.
yes, what she outcried to me.
And as I guess just as the days go, if you kind of follow the same pattern, if something new comes up, you call your doctor, you call CPS, you call police and give them an update.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember, I guess when they first mention to you that they would need for Arabella to go in and give a forensic interview?
I know that they shared that it may take a while because appointments there were hard to get.
All right, and just one moment. Ladies and gentlemen, I forgot to tell you, if you ever need a break, just raise your hand and let us know. Does anyone need a break? Okay, I just heard a lot of movement in the chairs. All right, so again, you've heard some evidence in this case. You're not allowed to start deliberating with yourselves or with anyone else. Everything that you need to learn about this case is to come from inside the courtroom. Does everyone understand? All right, so I will have you all come back. We'll say 2:21. That'll give everybody about 15 minutes. All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors.